purchase. You would make the purchase, go up to customer service, let them know that you paid the wrong price. They would give you your refund of $1, and then they would give you your super refund of $10, because 10 times 1 is 10, up to $10. So that's my little spiel. You know, the scanner XCC examiners are in the stores, not only, you know, making sure that stores are in compliance with the super refund, but they're checking items, they're scanning items, they're taking them up to the register in some cases. Sometimes technology allows them not to have to do that, but there's a specific number of items that they have to scan, a specific amount of items within a lot, and all of that. So they are checking prices within the stores throughout the county as well. So they truly are helping us with consumer protection in the county, which is great. And a lot of people either have heard of them but aren't quite sure what they do, or have never heard of them. So I always like to share that little piece about them. For consumer protection, which is the division that I fall under, we provide a few services to residents in the county. Not only do we try and get out as much as we can and educate the public on, you know, scams and fraud and identity theft, but we also provide voluntary mediation services to consumers. So if you had a complaint against a business and you wanted assistance with it, you could submit the complaint to our office. We would investigate it. We investigate it not only to make sure that it is a valid complaint, but also to determine whether or not it falls under our jurisdiction. If it doesn't fall under our jurisdiction, we would hopefully be able to provide you with some education, you know, what your rights and responsibilities are as a consumer in that scenario, and refer you to the right agency or entity to assist you with your complaint. If it is in our jurisdiction, we can initiate voluntary mediation. So we would notify the business of your complaint, and then we would work to come to a resolution that's both amicable for you and the business. One of the best examples I can give of this, unfortunately, because it's the one that we get referred to our office the most, is contractor complaints. So say you hired a contractor, or you know, signed a contract with a home improvement contractor, and you paid a down payment, and either they didn't show up after you paid the down payment, or maybe they didn't provide the services that you contracted with them. You could submit the complaint to our office, and we may be able to assist you. So our office is open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. You can contact us by phone, email. We do also have a website. I try to put a lot of resources on our website. We also have social media. I try to share a lot of current items, what's going on as far as scams, how to protect yourself, you know, what to watch out for. So if you are online, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You know, even if you don't read all of the articles, you know, you might get something for a scam that could protect you as a consumer. So please follow us. And really, the other presentation that I do, we talk a little bit more generally about scams and how to spot a scam. And I say, you know, spot a scam by being an educated consumer. And I really do believe that the more you know, the less likely it is that you'll fall victim to a scam or be taken advantage of. So, you know, if you've heard that somebody has, you know, fell for a specific scam, hopefully if somebody reaches out to you and tries to scam you in the same way, that won't happen. But today we're here to talk about identity theft and credit. I'm gonna show this short video. We're not gonna watch the whole thing. It's just it's a good way to get into this. This is a trailer for a movie. If you all want to watch the movie after you see the presentation, it is called Identity Thief. But I feel like it's just a good way to introduce what we're gonna talk about today.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Believe it, believe it.
Says we gotta cut the card. You don't pay your bills.
I pay my bills. Swipe it one more time. Nothing wrong with that card.
Randy, go get a debit
Sandy.
card. Sandy?
Yep.
Es un nombre de una mujer. Yo soy Sandy. Ay, mi nombre es Sandy.
I bet that was hurtful, wasn't it?
Hurtful.
Exceeded the credit limit. I used the card for coffee and gas. Florida, right beyond water sports? Never heard of it. I'm in Colorado. We don't have beaches. You know, we're landlocked.
Patterson, you missed your court date in Florida 3 days ago.
I've never even been to Florida.
Pull a mugshot.
Who the hell is this?
If I had to guess, this is the person who stole your identity.
Every day I'm hustling, 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 hustling.
Sandy Bigelow. Patterson.
Every day I'm hustling.
What the?
Your receipt.
You know what? Keep the card. It's done. Woo! Party people!
Look at her. She's like a hobbit. I can handle her. Going after Bilbo.
This is crazy. You don't chase criminals. You're not Batman.
Oh, my neck.
Neck hurts, huh? Why don't we swap information? Sandy, Bigelow, Patterson. Bigelow's such a rare name.
It's a family name. Jeremiah Bigelow was a pretty well-known bear hunter.
Sounds brave. Here's my driver's license with my name, Sandy Bigelow Patterson. Gotcha.
All right, so do I think that this scenario, obviously this is dramatized, if that's the right way to say it. You know, scenarios like that, I do believe could happen, especially with, female male names and whatnot, and somebody missing a court date because something that had to do with identity theft happened. I'm not promoting that you handle it that way, but it's like I said, a good introduction to what we're going to talk about, which is identity theft. Identity theft is the most common consumer fraud complaint and the fastest growing financial crime, affecting approximately 10 million Americans every year. It is a particular concern in New York, which has one of the highest per capita rates of identity theft in the country. And the big thing is some victims of identity theft have lost job opportunities, been refused loans, or even been arrested for a crime that they didn't commit. And it could take victims of identity theft many hours and thousands of dollars to clear their name. I also have up on here, I know it might be a little small, but it is the Federal Trade Commission's. Every year they release a report based on the data that they compile for consumer frauds and complaints that are reported to them. They're the largest entity that compiles reported data in regards to consumer fraud and complaints. And every year they put together this Scammy snapshot. So this is 2024 data. We got some big numbers here, especially in comparison to 2023. In 2024, there was 2.6 million reports of fraud, which totaled 12.5 billion reported loss. Now, that's a big number. Unfortunately, I would say that's probably maybe 50% of what actually has happened, because a lot of people don't report it. They don't think that anything will happen when they report it. They don't think that there's any way for them to get their money back. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Other things that I want to point out as far as these stats, because some people, like that data to put behind what we're talking about. The number one top fraud, imposters. Somebody pretending to be somebody else, whether that is a government entity like the IRS or Social Security or Medicare, a friend or family member, a charity organization, whatever it is, imposter scams are your number one fraud for 2024, and they have been for a few years. Number two, online shopping and negative reviews. 3, business and job opportunities. 4, which might be more applicable to this crowd, investments, and 5, internet services. So those are your top frauds. What we've been seeing, or what I've been seeing in the news recently, is scams are now becoming more than one scam. They're what I would say multimodal. So it might start off as a romance scam, which turns into an investment scam, which involves maybe a money mule and all of that. It's not just this is one thing the scam has done. And so I talk a little bit about it more in my scam class, but I think it's important to note that scams look different these days, and they're acting different. So beware. What else do I want to report? interesting fact. Everybody thinks that it's the older generation that is getting scammed, but younger people reported losing money to fraud more often than older people. The 20 to 29-year-olds are 44%, 70 to 79-year-olds are 24%. Now, I think that might be skewed because I think younger people are reporting more. But the biggest factor with that is younger people are losing less money, whereas older people are typically losing more money to scams than the younger crowd. And that's, that's a wealth thing. Their younger crowd doesn't have as much money as the older crowd. So in most scenarios. The other stats, phone calls have the highest per person reported losses. It's reported that on average, somebody loses $1,500 on a phone scam. And think about how quick a phone scam could be or how fast a phone scam could be. That's a significant amount of money. Social media has the highest overall reported losses. Total loss for social media is 1.9 billion in 2024. And then email has the highest overall number of reports in 2024, 372,000 email scams were reported. Now, I think that's because of the ease of reporting email scams, but it's still a lot and shows the impact that it could have on you as a consumer. Let's see. So let's talk about identity theft, what we're here to talk about. Identity theft occurs as simple as when your personal information is used by thieves. Now, when we talk about what is your personal information, your date of birth, your address, your telephone number, your social security number, credit card, bank account numbers, passwords. Now, everybody, if I were to ask you without showing you this and say, what is personal information that you should protect? And what would you say? You say your insurance card, your Medicare, social security number, your bank card. But I say this to bring up an important piece that, I put address and phone number on here because even though an address and a phone number is public information, where you're putting it and who you're giving it to makes a difference and could increase your risk of identity theft or becoming a victim of a scam. If you're putting your name and your phone number and even your email address down on information that is being used by, somebody that doesn't have the best intent, that may lead you to being contacted by a scammer or somebody that's looking to steal your identity, which could put you at risk. I always give the example of, going to a home show at the Erie County Fair, and they always have those little boxes that has the information sheet, and maybe you can win a hot tub or a free roof or whatever it is. But let me spin it in perspective, and I don't want to be that doom and gloom person, but if I'm a scammer, it's my job to scam people, and it's my job to get information to contact people to scam them. So if I'm a scammer, I'm going to say, all right, the home shows this weekend, and I could get a lot of information. I'm going to order off of Amazon one of those clear plastic boxes. I'm going to print out a nice sign from Kinko's that says, you can win a hot tub. And I'm going to go to the convention center. I'm going to set that up near a hot tub business. And I'm going to put it there. And then I'm going to ask people to give me their information. And they're going to willingly do so because they want to win a hot tub. And you're going to put down your name, your address, your phone number, and your email address, because that's not really important information that you need to protect, right? Or at least you may not have thought it was. And you're going to put it in that box. And what's going to happen is at the end of the home show, that scammer is going to take all of those pieces of paper, they're going to put it into a database, and then they're going to sell. They're going to sell it to people that want to call you and scam you. And when you say like, oh, how did they get my phone number? I have all these people calling me and trying to scam me. That's an example of where your information could be compromised or sold to people that want to, affect you in negative ways. And that may be dramatic, but it's a real life scenario. And if I can think of it, I'm sure that scammers can think of it that way. So when we talk a lot about identity theft, and our next point, which is, our point after this, how to limit your risk and protect yourself from identity theft. I'm going to say it a lot, but it's about the choices you make as a consumer. And, you know, making the choice to put your information on that piece of paper and put it into that box and not know where it's going is a choice you make, and it could put you at risk. So how identity theft occurs, kind of like what we just talked about. Some of the common ways that your personal information could be obtained is recovering mail you've thrown out, stealing business records, hacking into computers, scamming information from you by posing as a legitimate business, government entity, your bank, you know, that whole imposter scam. So what do we do? How do we know that we've been scammed, and what do we do? And you know, there are warning signs that you've become a victim of identity theft. Unfortunately, a lot of the times when you're talking about identity theft, it's more triage than it is proactive. But you know, I want you to know how to tell if you've become a victim, and then what you could do to reduce your risk of becoming a victim. So, you know, maybe you're receiving bills for purchases that you've never made, or collection notices for debts that you don't think belong to you. You're denied credit for no apparent reason. You stop receiving monthly bank or credit card statements, or maybe your credit report contains inaccurate information. These are all warning signs that something may have happened, and maybe you are a victim of identity theft, and that should be addressed. We'll get back to how to handle if you are a victim, but first we're going to talk about how to protect yourself. There are ways, like I said, to reduce your risks of becoming a victim. We're going to talk about safeguarding your personal information, using computers wisely, and then reviewing your bills and your credit reports. So, safeguarding your personal information. There's a lot of checks on here. I want to talk about most of them and give you guys some examples. So, the first one is keep your personal information in a safe place. The simple thing is keeping things out of sight, you know, especially if you're living in a community setting, if you are having people come into your home, working in your home that you don't know, that aren't like friends and family. I mean, even if they're friends and family, you know, hopefully people we can trust aren't going to, you know, look at a bill and steal your information, but it does happen, unfortunately, more times than I'd like to know of. But as simple as, you know, putting your checkbook in a drawer, putting a bill or an insurance statement in a drawer so that somebody that walks by it doesn't see your information. You know, if it is financial and has more sensitive information, put it in a locked drawer or a, you know, a cabinet or a safe. Whatever it may be, keeping your personal information in a safe place is one way to reduce your risk. Minimizing the use of your social security number. Your social security number, although it is one of the easiest and most asked for, it isn't the only piece of information that somebody can use to identify you or to confirm your identity. And if it is, make sure that you're only giving them the last four if you can. Don't give them your whole social security number. When it comes to putting your social security number down on paperwork, you know, why does a business need your social security number? Do they actually need it, or are they just asking for it? You know, when you go to the doctor's office on an annual basis, you're filling out that form that they put in their file drawer, and who knows who sees it. Why do they need your social security number if they have your insurance information? You know, you as a consumer have the ability to ask why a business is requesting data from you, and if they can't answer it, then you might question why they're actually asking for it and how they're using it. So, you know, if you're applying for a credit card, that's something you would expect they would need your social security number for, because they're going to run a credit report and they're going to make sure that you can have the credit card. If you're, you know, applying for a rewards card at Kohl's or Tops or, you know, one of the stores that you frequent, why would they need your social security number? That's what I would say as a consumer, and questioning and safeguarding your personal information, you know, minimizing the use of your social security number. One of the things that always gets brought up is, you know, a lot of people, and, you know, in a prior life, I worked at a financial institution, and a lot of places request that people put their social security number on checks that they're sending in bills, because it's easy. It makes it more efficient, and it makes it faster for them to link a check or a payment with an account. Now, in New York State, it's actually illegal for a business to require you to put an account number or a social security number on a check. If they are asking you to and you feel comfortable doing that, like I said, use the last four. You know, it's a question of choices. Like I said, you know, putting your account number on a check that you're mailing in may make it easier for the business to apply it to your account and more efficient for you, but it also may put you at risk of somebody, you know, taking that check out of the mail and having information that you don't want them to have. So it's a choice that you make. Reviewing your medical explanations of benefits regularly. We all get them in the mail or electronically in our email. You know, they say this is not a bill. The important piece with this is, you know, Medicare fraud is a huge problem. You know, you don't think about insurance directly because it's not like dollars coming out of your pocket. Sometimes it is, but you know, if somebody got your insurance information and are using it to buy durable medical equipment, or even the other side of it, your doctor's office is doing stuff that isn't quite legal, and they're charging you for services that you didn't receive, or, you know, even equipment that you never ordered or didn't actually get. You as a consumer want to make sure that if something is associated with you, that you've actually received it. So check your medical explanation of benefit statements when you get them. Make sure that they're services that you receive, that they're equipment that you purchased or have in your possession. Either way, it may not directly affect you, but the cost of Medicare fraud drives prices for consumers. So it all hurts us a little bit or a lot of it at a time. Making sure you limit the information in your wallet. I'd put a star on that, especially while you're traveling. But in most cases, you know, do you need to carry all four of your credit cards? You know, don't carry your social security card or your Medicare card unless you need it. And the other side of it is knowing what's in your wallet. You know, if your purse or your wallet was stolen or lost, are you going to know exactly what you need to replace? The cards that you need to turn off, or make sure that, you know, they're not being used. One thing that we suggest is if you have a secure place to put it, take a picture or, you know, write down on a piece of paper what's in your wallet, so that if that ever happened to you, you could go home and say, okay, I have to call M&T. Here's the number that I know is associated with M&T because I got it off the back of my card. I have to call Independent Health. I have to, you know, go through that list and have that list so that you can protect yourself if something happens to your wallet or your purse. We've talked a little bit about determining how your personal information is used. One thing, you know, just reiterating that is, if a business can't answer why they're asking you for information, then I would be a little bit leery about giving it. You know, in most cases you have the choice. I know everybody always asks, well, the IRS asked me to put my social security number on this, and unfortunately I think when it comes to government entities, I can't respond to the why and the unsecure of it, but you know, you get to determine how your personal information is used. So keep that in mind. Placing passwords on your accounts, you know, your credit card account, your phone account. You know, your phone has a lot of personal data in it or personal information in it. Make sure you have a PIN on it, or enable your Touch ID or whatnot. In addition to passwords, you know, if you're using a mobile app for banking or for investments, enable that multi-factor authentication. Have you ever heard of multi-factor authentication? Most of you, good. It is a little bit, it's an extra step. It takes a little bit more time, but I'm going to tell you in the easiest way possible why I say this is one of the items if you leave here with, you know, only one thing to remember or to do, to take action on. Multi-factor authentication will protect you in a situation where your information has been compromised. So say you bank at, let's say, M&T, because they're one of the ones that have a lot of scams out there and whatnot. So say you bank at M&T and M&T gets hacked and their data is stolen by a scammer. Now that probably most likely will include username and passwords for online accounts. So now a scammer has your username and password, and they're going to try and go in and get access to your account so they can, change the address of your billing statement or request a new credit card so that they can use it. Well, if you have multi-factor authentication enabled, when that scammer goes in and uses your data and signs in with your username and password that they got from the hack, if you have multi-factor authentication enabled, it is now going to prompt them and ask them for a third piece of information. And I always bring out my phone so that I can kind of show you in real life. Being a county worker, we have multi-factor authentication enabled on our accounts. So when I sign into my computer, I use my username and password, and then a little screen pops up and it prompts me for a code. And I have an app on my phone. Sometimes people have little key tags. Other times you can request a phone call. A lot of places use text, and they'll text you like a 6-digit code. So I go on my phone for work, and I get this 6-digit code off this app. And the app I use is Duo. And nowadays, it used to be when multi-factor first came out that there would be one app for one thing, and then you'd need another app for another thing, and it was a little bit more cumbersome. Now that it's mainstream, I have 4 different accounts in one app that I use for multi-factor. But what you do is you get a code, and then you put that code in, and without that code, you can't access your account, even if you have your username and your password. And what that does is that stops the scammer at that point from accessing your account. And it also now lets you know that somebody was trying to access your account. Because typically there's an alert, there's a text message, there's an email that tells you, you've requested this code from us, here's this code. Well, if you haven't requested a code from somebody, you know that somebody is trying to get into your account. And that's really where the extra protection comes in with multi-factor. It's another second, it does take a little bit of time to set it up. If you are only going to set it up on certain accounts, set it up on your bank account, set it up on your email. Maybe you don't set it up on your social media accounts because, you don't want to, or you don't want to take the time to do that. That's fine. But, the more secure you are, the less likely it is that somebody is going to be able to access your accounts and get your information. So use passwords, use multi-factor. That's our suggestion. Properly disposing of documents. People lifting things out of garbage cans or pulling things out of your mailbox. If you're not throwing things out appropriately or shredding them and making sure that documents with sensitive information on it can't be, recovered, then you're putting yourself at risk. Second on that, minimizing the use of mail, not only for banking, but in general. In that department guide that I gave you, there's a page with resources on it. And one of the resources that we provide is about stopping pre-screened marketing and credit card offers. So, you may not be enrolled in that, or maybe you are, I am. But at one point in time when I got married, my husband wasn't. And that actually stops you from getting, credit card offers, the loan applications, you're pre-approved for, a 300,000 home refi or whatnot. And it does work. It's not going to stop scammers, which is a good thing in a way. Because if you are enrolled in it and you are receiving something, now you know that that's not a legitimate business following the marketing rules, which makes it easier for you to spot a scam. So it's kind of twofold. You're getting less mail, less like junk mail, let's say. There's less opportunities for somebody to pull something out of a mailbox and, open a credit card in your name. And you're now able to see those scam mailers better. So obviously, minimizing the use of mail specifically for banking is a great idea. Check washing and stealing checks from the mail is becoming more prevalent. Just over the last couple years, or I'd say year, there have been reports of people targeting postal workers, stealing what they call air cards, which are the keys to get into the blue mailboxes. So where we used to think that as long as it's a secure mailbox, like a blue mailbox, it's fine. Now it's not as secure as it used to be because people are stealing those keys and they're accessing them and just taking a lot of mail. So if you do have to use mail for banking, my suggestion would be go into the post office and put it in the mailbox in the post office so that it's not outside on the street, where it's not being watched. But try and minimize your use of banking in the mail. Guarding your mail from theft. Are you in a community setting? Are you putting your mail on hold when you go on vacation? If you are in, apartment complex or a senior citizen, community, look for locked mailboxes. Is your mailbox locked so that somebody can't access it? That will protect you from somebody just walking by and getting mail out of your mailbox. Don't let your credit card out of your sight. I say this and I know how hard it would be in some situations. I think it's gotten better because nowadays, especially at restaurants, they come up with those little, I don't even know what you would call them, handheld credit card machines, and they do it right there at the table. But I do like to tell a story. It's actually a senior services person that told me this story. Eric might be familiar with it and might have already heard me tell it. But after one of these, I had a woman come up to me from senior services and tell me that she had been involved in a scam and that she didn't realize it until the Amherst police contacted her. And she's telling me the story. And what had happened is her credit card was compromised, and she was told by the Amherst police that a woman at a Tim Hortons, which happens to be at the corner of my parents' street, was working the drive-through, and when she was taking the credit cards, she was, chatting with you very nicely because she was a pleasant woman and distracting you so that you couldn't tell that when she took your credit card, she was actually, as she was running it or after she was running it, taking a picture of it with her cell phone so that she could have your credit card number. And then she'd take your credit card number and make some purchases on it. And there's two things of that story that I like to point out. This woman wasn't really watching her credit card statement, so she didn't see the charges, which is one thing. But also that whole keep your credit card in sight when you can. Because there are people out there that may be using it in ways that you wouldn't think of. And, she's telling me this story and I'm like, I've been through that drive-through. I know exactly who you're talking about. And I pay on my app, which reduces the risk in some ways. But I mean, that could have been me. That could have happened to me. It's right here in my neighborhood. So it's a story I like to tell because it's very relatable. And it is things that happen. The other thing with keeping your credit card in your sight, I give another example about ordering a pizza because it goes back to the choices you make as a consumer and the risk you want to take. We were having a family party and my mom wanted to order the pizza, but she wanted me to pick it up because it was on my way to her house. And I'm like, well, I'll pay for it when I get there. And she's like, oh no, I paid for it over the phone. That's fine. I'm like, Mom, how did you pay for it over the phone? Like, do you know what they did with it? Did they type it into a machine? Did they write it down on a piece of paper so that anybody at the pizzeria can just steal that piece of paper and have your credit card number? So, if you have the capabilities to do things more securely, order online in that situation because they've invested on the online platform. And, I can't say that nobody's out there to get people online, but, if you're putting your information in, to order a pizza in this situation and they've purchased an online platform and it's secure, that may be more secure than letting them write it down on a piece of paper that could, just end up in somebody's pocket. So, be careful when using ATMs, especially when you're traveling. There's two sides of it. There's, ATMs that could be compromised. Has anybody heard of skimming and know what skimming is? No. Skimming is when a scammer puts a device on a point of sale, so any type of card reader that actually skims the information off of it. And how they work is it's a Bluetooth technology. So typically a scammer is nearby and it emits a signal to them. And when you swipe your card, it reads your card numbers and it sends it to them. It lets the transaction go through because it doesn't stop any of the functionality of a card reader, but it gives your credit card number to somebody that you don't know you're giving it to. Now, the issue with skimming devices is that they always look really real. And a lot of times it's an overlay on a card reader. So you can't even tell that it's there. So going back to our weights and measures, one of the things that they do is that they actually check for skimming devices. We have Bluetooth, it's called a skim scam and a blue sleuth. And they, when they're, at businesses, they'll swipe them and make sure that there's no skimming device. But you as a consumer, you may not go home and Google it. You may not be able to tell that there's a skimming device on there, but if an ATM or a card reader looks damaged or, it doesn't quite look right, something's broken off, maybe when you go to put your card in or something, it seems loose. That could be a warning that there's a skimming device on it. Last summer, I believe, Walmart had an issue with skimming devices, and it was first reported, I believe, in the Syracuse area. And they had a skimming device, and if you Google Walmart skimming in New York, it'll come up, and it's actually a video, and it's crazy because I had been talking about skimming devices for a few years before I saw this video, and they actually have a video of the 3 people that were involved putting a skimming device on a card reader at a Walmart. And you'll notice if you go into Walmart next time, all of the Walmart card readers now have this bright yellow metal bar that goes in front of the card reader. And it looks like it's just holding it, but what it's actually doing is it's preventing somebody from putting a skimming device over it because now they can't clip it on there. And if you watch this video, it's mind-boggling, but all of the factors add up because Walmart has those really high registers, so the person behind the register can't really see the customer except for kind of their faces and up high. And there's 3 people, 2 people are distracting the woman that's cashing them out, and the person in the middle is wearing this, bulky sweatshirt. And in the middle of the transaction, you see this guy kind of just pull something out of his sweatshirt or his jacket and just kind of go like this and press it on to the card reader. And that was a skimming device. And that skimming device stayed on that register for 3 days. Can you imagine how many people walk through that register and swipe their card in 3 days? Probably a lot. So Walmart changed their policy. Now they have more security around it. They changed their registers so they have that little clip. And the way skimming scammers work is they move. They don't stay in one spot. So they typically travel down the east and the west coast. And by the time they got to Niagara Falls, there was a Walmart in Niagara Falls. That skimming device was on that machine for 3 hours. So good for Walmart. They enacted some, security protocols that allowed them to find it faster. But, goes to show you how quickly, Syracuse, Niagara Falls, they probably moved on and hit Pennsylvania and whatnot. So be careful when you're using ATMs. Choose, ATMs that are under surveillance. An ATM in a bank kiosk is going to be much more secure than that ATM in the corner of that grocery store or that gas station, that's not very brightly lit, and you have a younger person at the register that's not paying attention and not watching it. More likely that a skimming device is going to be on that ATM than one at a bank branch. So the last personal information safeguards is reducing your unsolicited credit card applications, which we already talked about. And I would highly suggest everybody to do it because, like I said, it truly does work. I had, when I first started in this job, I did it because I wanted to know how to do it and how easy it was and to walk through it. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not getting any of this junk mail. But my husband, he was getting like 2 or 3 credit card applications a day, which is crazy. Not only is it annoying, but it's a waste of paper, and there's a lot of good reasons, unless you're looking for a credit card or a loan or whatnot. There's a lot of good reasons to, get in that opt out and don't get marketing. Essentially, which I didn't know when I heard at a recent presentation from another agency, the credit bureaus are the ones that drive marketing. And unfortunately, as a credit bureau, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, they provide your information to, banks and legitimate businesses for marketing purposes. And that's how they get your information. And that's how they know that they want to offer you, the prime tier, best credit card, gold advantage card, because they know your credit. Or they want to give you a payday loan because they know that your credit's not that great and you might need to use it to pay off some, debt that you have. So, I didn't know that, but, when people say, why are they sending me these? It's because they have that information, and unfortunately in some way they're authorized to do that. But that's why there's an opt out. So, any questions on safeguarding information
one
before
question.
yeah.
My credit got compromised to my orthopedic doctor.
Okay.
They got hit, so I
Yep.
put a freeze.
A data hack.
I put a freeze on my account. Ever since I put a freeze, I get no more offers either.
That is probably because it's frozen.
Yeah.
But we will talk about credit freezes and fraud alert in a second, so I don't want to touch on it too much, but we'll go back to that. Any other questions? Yes.
How do you set up the multi-factor?
It depends on the account. It varies. Typically it would be like, let's say you want to set it up on your bank app or your online banking. Typically when you sign into your account, you're going to look for like a security setting, and you can enable it. Unfortunately, I think it's coming. Not all places require you to have multi-factor, even though they offer it. But in most cases, it's free, and all you have to do is either download an app or allow them to text you. But it really is specific to, bank by bank is going to be set up differently. What they allow you to do, whether they send you a code or email you, it's going to vary. So I can't really tell you that specifically. If you have issues and you have a specific case where you're having trouble, I would contact the business and ask them how to do it. If you aren't getting an answer from them and that they have multi-factor, you could call us and I could take a look into it and try and assist you. Yes.
Last week, I had a problem with identity theft. It was
Okay.
through Apple Music.
Okay.
We had purchased music. I bought the 14 that I wanted. They were $1.29 each. Later on that day, I'm getting charged $65, $35. Turned out it was $2,100 they had charged to my card.
Okay.
My granddaughter realized she had accidentally put something on my card, so now she calls Apple, had them switch it to her. She was getting identical charges, identical amounts, identical times.
I mean, I would like to think that a big company like Apple or like Microsoft is immune or has, security protocols in place to stop that. But it does happen even with the biggest of companies. And unfortunately, a lot of times you don't know where in the process it became compromised. If it's specific, like you want to ask a question on what to do or whatnot, talk to me after. I want to address
Oh, I
your.
went to the bank and
Okay.
taken care of.
Good. That's the important part. But it is, it does happen. And the fact that you're watching your statement, you're able to report it, it is really an important piece.
Yeah, so how do you prevent it when it is a big company like that you wouldn't expect this from?
I don't know that that is a way that I could tell you to 100% reduce your risk. Using a credit card over a debit card offers you more protections because credit card companies have to have a dispute process. They have to provisionally credit you the money and check into it if it is a scam. Typically, they reimburse you, where your bank, if you're using your debit card in your bank account, they don't have to do that for you.
No, it's a point.
They
It's
may.
a point of sale. I had
Yeah.
that happen to me.
And a lot of times it is the
And I
point of sale.
couldn't-
That's that skimming device.
I was trying to dispute it, and they wouldn't dispute it, but I got a hold of the company and I told them I want to take you to court. And then they finally gave my money back. It's the last time I ever used a debit card. I couldn't use my credit card because it was too much. Because I tried doing it twice. I got a phone call from the bank because of the fraud alert on it. So I needed this thing real bad, so I went ahead and used the damn debit card. What a big mistake I made. Took me 15 phone calls to get it straightened out.
Yeah, credit cards, like I said, they
Never
do
use a
offer more
debit card again.
protections. Yeah.
Mine was a debit card and one phone call took care of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're lucky.
and that's, I mean, that is, unfortunately, there isn't a standard for banks.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you know, getting money back or being credited or having a bank look into something is based on the institution and their policies. There are banks out there that'll say, no way, Jose. And then there are banks that will, you know, take the consumer oriented route and really assist them and have easy ways to look into things or get money back in that situation. Yeah.
Just in reference to that lady with the Apple, I get emails supposedly from Apple every day.
Oh, yeah.
They've canceled my iCloud, all that. That's all a fraud. It's not from Apple. But
It
it
is.
looks like it's from Apple.
It very much does. That's called a phishing email.
But I get probably 5, 6 a day.
Yeah. You do, you could go down a huge path with phishing because phishing is it's PHISHING, not like phishing, but
Call Apple.
they can't do anything about
They
it.
can't help you because they say it's not theirs.
The thing that I would say is report those. Whether you're reporting them to your email carrier or you're reporting them to a government entity like the anti-phishing working group. It takes a lot to catch scammers that are using phishing as their means of communication because they change their email addresses, they change their websites so often. But there are federal entities out there that are collecting that data and trying to compile it to see the trends, to identify where they're coming from. Most recently, I don't know if it was the FBI or the FTC had an enforcement action against a internet provider for allowing spoof websites to be created. And a lot of them, they gave the list of all of the domain names that were a part of the enforcement action. And a lot of them you could tell just by looking at them were fake Amazon, you know, fake Apple, fake Microsoft websites. So it's not that they don't enforce it. It's just typically very hard to. But I think they're trying. It's just a lot of times it takes a long time to catch up with things. And unfortunately, there's so much out there and they're so quickly. And in my other class, I do stats and I think it says there's, you know, 1,000 phishing websites are created and taken down in a day. And that's probably not even close to what actually happens. But yes, you are correct. It's out there and you have to be careful that it's actually where you're going. In my scam class, I talk about it, and a lot of the times it's who's initiating that contact or, you know, that link. Are you putting the link in or are you clicking the link? So you have to be careful. Are you making the phone call or are you picking up a phone call? You know, typically if you're initiating it, you know, you're calling the right person, you know, you're emailing the right person, you know, you're going to the right website. If somebody's contacting you, especially unexpectedly, that would be a red flag that maybe it's somebody being an imposter, maybe it's somebody trying to scam you. So I want to get too in the weeds on that. I want to talk about our next one, which is using computers wisely, which actually should be using electronics wisely because we have our iPads and our, you know, our Chromebooks and our tablets and all of that now. But, you know, prevent unauthorized access to your computer. Going back to that PIN and that password. Have a password on your computer. Have a PIN on your phone. Make sure that you're not leaving or storing information in a public computer. If you're using the computer here at the center, you know, those pop-ups come up so quickly and you know, we're instinctively just pressing and clicking off of them. Make sure that you're not clicking, you know, do you want to save your password, especially in a public place. Take care in transmitting personal information. Again, the internet is here and it is used, and I can't say don't use the internet, it's all bad, because that's just unrealistic. But make better choices when you're using the internet is what I could say. Does everybody know how to tell if a website is secure or not? Oh, yeah, you got it. You got it. Yeah, yeah. It's either got a little lock in the menu bar, or the address is going to be HTTPS instead of just HTTP. And I always say the S stands for secure because that's an easy way to remember it. Now, not all websites that are not secure are bad websites. And I say that because I know, friends that have, startup businesses that can't afford what it costs to be an HTTPS versus an HTTP. So I'm not saying that all websites that aren't secure are bad, but what I would recommend for you is if you're shopping online, if you're putting personal information into, a cart when you're cashing out or, applying for something, make sure that that section of the website is secure. Because a business that is investing in security and, there are, when you get into putting in your credit card information online, PCI, which is the payment card industry, has standards that govern businesses when they collect your data online. And if a business is complying with those regulations and securing your information properly, that section of the website should at least be secure. And what that means, when I say they're securing your information, if you're putting your credit card information into a screen and that's being saved by a business, what are they doing with that information and how are they securing it? Are they storing all of the information? Are they storing that CVV code that you put in there? When they store it, is it redacted or obfuscated, which means that you can't see it if you pull up that data file? Are they redacting it so that if there is a breach, all they get is a bunch of gobbledygook instead of just your whole credit card number? Those are things that secure websites and businesses that are investing in securing your data are paying for and making sure it happens. How long are they retaining your data? There should be a limit on how long. It just shouldn't be in their system forever. So use those secure websites, especially when you're putting in your information. If you're sending an email to a family member, don't send an email with your full security number in it or social security number in it, because that's out there and it could be intercepted, it could be hacked, and then your data is out there. Even if you're sending it to, a friend. My sister all the time will call me because she needs something and she's like, I needed to call you because I need your social security number. I'm like, okay. And she won't text me because she knows I won't put it in a text message. So just be careful. Beware of phishing. We already talked about it. Look at that. Come to my scams class if you haven't. We talk about phishing. I show you how to recognize it. Phishing is out there. There's actually phishing, there's vishing, and there's smishing, and all of the ishings are bad. But it's actually, how they're contacting you. So phishing is email, vishing is your voicemail or your voice call, and then smishing is your text message or your SMS messages, how they used to refer to them. But all they are is a contact to you and an attempt to get some personal information from you in order to scam you. So typically they're imposter type scams, or somebody's impersonating somebody else, or posing as another business to try and get your information. So be careful. Try not to store your sensitive information on your laptop. Like I said, those click offs are really easy. Do you want to save your password? Yeah, of course. It makes it easier for next time. Just know that puts you at risk. And is that something that you want to do? I always talk about shopping online, and I don't know why I use Kohl's as an example all the time, because I really don't shop at Kohl's, but I use Kohl's as an example frequently. And if you're shopping at Kohl's online, are you saving your credit card? Because if you save your credit card, you're giving them permission to maintain that credit card in their database. And although it's easier for you next time, that does put your information at risk. And if they get hacked, that information could be more freely out there for them to steal. So, it may be a convenience and it may take you, that minute less when you go to purchase something. But is that worth the risk is all I would say. Disposing of computers properly. Like I said, it should really be disposing of electronics properly. If you're, upgrading your phone, the big box people, if you're going in the Apple Store, Verizon, and AT&T, they know what to do. They're trained. They make you wipe your device. They make you restore it to factory settings. Most of the time, I would say, I would rely on them. You as a consumer have to do that. But make sure you are doing that, especially if you're selling it to a third party, if you're selling it to a family member or a friend. Make sure you are wiping your device so that your information isn't in there if you're selling it, because you never know who's going to use it, whose hands it's going to get into, and whatnot. Any questions on using computers wisely?
What about a computer that's no longer going to be used?
Depends what you want to do with it. Are you selling it? Are you just not using it?
No.
I would tell your grandkids to take a hammer to it.
Yep, take their hard drive out and smash it.
Take it where?
Take a hammer to it. Have somebody destroy it. You could pay a company to securely dispose of it. But if you know that you're never going to use it, if it's no monetary value to you and all the information on it you have and you don't need, I would smash it up as best you can. Have your, like I said, have your grandson, granddaughter, safely destroy it with a hammer. We used to do that at work because it costs too much to have somebody destroy stuff like that. So there's a lot of different ways you could handle it. Last thing we're going to talk about, which may be the most important when it comes to identity theft, is reviewing your bills and your credit reports. Maintaining accurate records of all your banking, reviewing your bills, reviewing your credit reports. Those are important. And I believe we have a video. I'm going to show you this video. It is not in New York State. It's not Erie County. It's actually out of Boston, but I used to use the Federal Trade Commission's, but rules changed and they haven't updated their video, and I was tired of showing the video and then saying, oh, but this has changed. So this is a really good overview of how to check your credit and why it's important. So we're going to watch it.
Wix. One platform, any website. Unlimited creation.
If information in your credit report is wrong, you might pay a hefty price, a higher interest rate on loans, or even miss out on an apartment or a new job.
So you should check your reports for errors. It is free, and now you can see yours weekly. NBC 10 consumer investigative reporter Leslie Gatiss shows us how.
The three big credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, extended a pandemic perk, weekly access to your credit report, and you should take advantage. To get your reports, go to annualcreditreport.com and beware of imposters.
There are other websites out there, but annualcreditreport.com is the only website that is authorized under law.
On annualcreditreport.com, select Request Your Free Credit Reports. You can request a report from 1, 2, or all 3 big credit bureaus. It only took me a few minutes.
It's a great way to make sure nobody's opening credit or trying to get an apartment or a job in your name.
Your reports show bank, credit, and loan accounts in your name, plus payment history. Look for errors and any accounts you don't recognize. If you do spot a problem, you need to write 2 letters, one to the business, the other to the credit bureau listing the mistake. The good news is the FTC has partly written those letters for you. You can find their templates on the FTC website. The credit bureaus have 30 days to investigate.
If it's found in your favor, it truly is a mistake, then that credit reporting agency has to fix the error, and then they have to report to the other 2. So all 3 of your credit reports will be in line.
Don't ever ignore errors. Even the smallest ones might drag down your credit score or be a sign someone's stolen your identity and is impersonating you.
All right, so check those reports frequently. Also, a credit freeze is an easy thing to set up, and it's a smart way to protect against identity theft. When you freeze your credit, you prevent unauthorized access to your credit report, and it is simple to do. And you've definitely heard me say that many, many times, but someone wasn't listening to me.
Oh, yeah.
So let's hear what happened to you, Corey.
So one of the insurance companies that I'm with had a data breach, happened late January. A week later, I had about 5 or 6 different credit cards opened up in my name.
Oh, wow.
From all different banks. One of them, the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, actually came to my house. So I knew I didn't ask for this credit card, but as you'll see here, Citizens, TD Bank, Wells Fargo, all of them. In some cases, they were unable to open the account because they couldn't verify the ID. But in some cases, like the Chase one, an account was opened up in my name. Fortunately, I have monitoring, which let me know that these inquiries were made to open up the accounts, but I did not have my credit frozen. So I went to every credit agency, told them about the fraud, called the banks, told them about the fraud, froze my credit.
How easy was it
Put
to
on
freeze
fraud
your credit?
alerts. I did all of this in probably 30 minutes for every credit agency, called every single bank. All of them very helpful, spoke to a real person, said this isn't fraud, and got it figured out. And my credit score hasn't changed.
But if I go to the website that you mentioned there, annual credit
report.com,
is it less than 30 minutes?
Yes, it takes 5 minutes. I just did it.
It is very easy to do. And
5 or 10 minutes to print out those reports. So had Corey listened to me in the first place, he wouldn't have had to go through a lot of that because he would have put a freeze on his credit report and then it couldn't have been accessed. So no one could take out a credit card in his name. So what's the lesson? Always listen to me, right?
Yes.
We have more information on how to freeze your credit report.
So that is. Sorry, sometimes the videos are just hard. I like showing that because it answers a lot of questions before we talk about it. But the 3 pieces here, maintaining accurate records of all your banking and credit card statements. You know, he brings up a good point in that video. If you not only check your, bank accounts, but if you stop getting a statement, that should be a red flag for you. Banks are required to send you statements on a regular basis. And if all of a sudden, you stop receiving them, whether it's electronically or, physically, that might indicate that somebody's called the bank and had them sent elsewhere. And pretty much the only reason why that would happen is because they don't want you to know that they're using your credit card. So, review your bills. Doesn't really need an explanation, but if somebody, has accessed a compromised credit card, lifted your credit card in a skimming device, any of those situations, if you're not looking at your statements, then you may not know that they're using them. And, I give an example because it happened to me. I bank with Cornerstone, Community Federal Credit Union out in Lockport, and the one day I get a call and it was a fraud alert and somebody was trying to charge my account for $0. And you may say, like, why do I care about that? It's only $0. But a lot of times what a scammer will do is they'll try to charge your account just to validate that it's open and active before they actually charge you an amount. So, fortunately they have stuff in place where they caught it. They asked me if this was a company I recognized. It wasn't. So they, took care of it. But be wary and be mindful if on your account statement you see a $0 charge, that could be somebody that's trying to access your account for bad reasons. The last one, reviewing your credit report. They talked about it in there. Who here has ran their credit report in the last year?
I do.
That's good, but that's only, 10% of this room. And truly your credit report is the only way to know that somebody has accessed your information or obtained some sort of piece of credit. In COVID, the reason why I changed up this video from a federal agency source was because in COVID, or prior to COVID, it was you could run your credit report once a year from all 3 credit agencies. And me as a consumer protection person would say, well, run it every 3 months. Run it from TransUnion, 3 months later, run it from Experian, 3 months later, run it from Equifax. And then you have the whole year covered and you get it for free. Well, when COVID happened and the increase in that sort of activity and fraud occurred, the Federal Trade Commission and the credit reporting agencies enacted a program that allowed people to run their credit every week if they wanted to. And last fall, they now have made it permanent, at least at this point. So as a consumer, if you wanted to run your credit report every week, you could. It's probably overboard, especially if you're not a victim of identity theft, but it is really easy. You go on their website, you put in the information, they ask you some credit report specific questions, and you can download a PDF right then and there. You can also call, you can ask them to send you your credit report via the mail. They are pretty accessible. They're a little weird to read, but what you want to do is make sure that the information on there is accurate. You know, if you closed a credit card 5 years ago and it's still showing as open, that's a problem. Because you closed it and, you know, it's open and available for risk, you know, does somebody have a copy of it? You know, making sure that the debt that's on there is actually debt that you have. The addresses is an important piece. You know, if they're showing an address that you've never been associated with, why is that on there? Because somebody in some way or fashion connected your credit with that address, which could be a red flag that something happened or something was compromised. In this identity theft and credit booklet, right in the middle, there's a section on credit. It talks about credit freezes. It gives the contact information for the credit bureaus. So if you're looking to, you know, use that, truly, when she says the credit freeze is your best way to limit your risk, credit freezes are truly the only thing that I could tell you that I know will stop somebody from opening up a credit card in your name. You know, if you put a freeze on your account, first off, it doesn't affect your credit score in any way. It doesn't negatively, you know, decrease your credit score. What it does is it freezes your account, and that doesn't freeze any credit you currently have. So it doesn't stop you from using credit cards. It stops someone, even yourself, from opening up a new line of credit. So if you're going for a lease, if you're going for a loan, if you're going to refinance your mortgage, if you're looking for a new credit card, you yourself would even be stopped. But you can unfreeze it and freeze it as many times as you wanted to. So say you're leasing a car and your lease comes up and you know you're going to the dealership next week and you know, are expecting to lease another car. Unfreeze your account, get your lease, refreeze it. Especially if you're not running your credit reports, and you're not using credit, you know, in a way where, you know, a college kid is going to college, they're getting loans, you know, they're getting married, they're buying a house, they're using credit a lot. You may not be, and freezing your credit will stop people from opening a line of credit in your name. So that's the number 2, multi-factor authentication, and put a credit freeze on your accounts. Yes.
When you put a credit freeze in, if you're a married couple,
Yes.
if I go out and put my name in, do I also have to, does my wife also have to go out and put her name in?
Does she share your social security number?
Not the social security
Right.
number,
So
but
yes.
the accounts are all.
Doesn't matter, because your accounts are your accounts, your credit is your credit. So you have credit and she has credit. So you would have to separately freeze. And the best way I can say it is it's linked to your social security number. It is you personally as a person. It's not you as an account holder somewhere with, you know, somebody else. So to answer your question, you would have to freeze your credit and she would have to freeze her credit. And in addition to that, if you didn't hear that in the video, you would have to freeze your credit at all 3 credit reporting agencies. A fraud alert is a little bit different. A fraud alert is when you know that you've become a victim of identity theft. You would alert the you would alert the credit bureaus that you're a victim of fraud. The alert lasts for 1 year. And what that looks like is, instead of going to the store and we'll use Kohl's as an example again. Kohl's asks you if you want a credit card today, and you do because you want to save some money. When they go to open up a credit card in your name, if your account's frozen, when they go out and say, you know, give me this guy's credit and he have a credit card, they're going to come back and they're going to say, no, he can't have one. You can't open it in his name. If there's a fraud alert on your account, what's going to happen is Kohl's is going to go out and say, hey, can Joe have credit here or a credit card here? They're going to come back and they're going to call you and say, hey, Joe, are you at Kohl's? Do you want a credit card? And you're going to say, yep, I'm here. I want a credit card. And then they're going to say, hey, Kohl's, he's good. You can give him one. That's the difference between a freeze and a fraud alert.
You can't put both on at the same time?
You can. A fraud alert's going to drop off after 1 year.
You want to apply for a card, will they call you?
They
Or-
call, well,
or
the
freeze.
freeze would probably trump the fraud alert.
Okay.
I don't see the benefit of having both on.
Well, when you go to these places and you say, you know, they ask you, do you want to put a fraud alert first, and then there's another spot for free, so you don't know which one to pick.
Freeze.
So I did both.
Yeah, the fraud alert's going to end up dropping off.
Okay.
Fraud alerts only last for a year. The benefit to, or the difference from a reporting standpoint is if you call TransUnion and give them a fraud alert, they're going to tell Experian and Equifax that there's a fraud alert. For a freeze, you have to specifically call each of the reporting
you have to call
agencies.
each one of them.
And freezes last forever. Until you tell them to unfreeze it, it will be frozen. But nowadays, unfreezing and freezing are way easier than it was even 10 years ago. It used to be that you had to call a week before. You had to put it in writing. You had to do all these things. So it was really jumping through hoops and it wasn't very consumer friendly. Now it's a phone call. It's almost immediate. It is much more friendlier, much easier to do. And it really is beneficial to you. Yes.
If you have a freeze, is there a reason why you would go on and check your credit reports every? I mean, I've had a freeze on mine for a couple of years.
I would run a credit report.
Okay.
I don't see, there's no harm in it.
Right.
There are things like your mortgage, let's say, or, I don't know, what is a good example?
Well, if you paid something off, you would want to make sure it's.
Yeah,
full.
that really
You know what I'm
is
saying?
like,
if you paid a mortgage off, you want to make sure it's zeroed out.
I did this after my mortgage
Yeah.
was paid off.
but even like a credit card, like you still want to make sure that the information on your credit report is accurate, even though it's frozen and you know that somebody isn't going to be opening up a line of credit in your name. That's thank you. I couldn't put my I couldn't pinpoint it, but that's a great example. Yes.
I do that right through Credit Karma. It tells me everything.
I do have a note to talk about credit monitoring. Credit Karma is a credit monitoring service. A lot of times your credit card company will offer credit monitoring, especially if they've gotten in trouble in the past. I give this example because I have a Capital One card and I get free credit monitoring. I always try to tell you to go through resources that are free before you pay for something. You can totally pay for credit monitoring, but I would make sure you exhaust your options that could be free to you. What happens is a big company like Capital One in I think 2009 or the early 2000s had a huge data breach. And it was found that it was due to their lack of security. And the Federal Trade Commission or whoever was governing them at the time, went after them. And in a settlement, they not only probably paid a lot of money for consumer restitution, but they also were required to offer their credit card holders credit monitoring for free. A lot of times when you get a data breach letter, it'll offer you credit monitoring because the company's been required to provide you with credit monitoring for a certain amount of time. So, look into your credit cards before you start paying for credit monitoring. But to your point, Credit Karma is one of those credit monitors. They're really great because they will let you know if something's changed. They'll let you know if somebody's, put an inquiry on. Let you know if a new line of credit has been opened. So they really are very helpful. Mine is actually integrated into my Capital One app, so they're really easy to access sometimes. I can go on there and I can see what's changed. Did my score go up and down? Why did it go up and down? Those things. Credit monitoring is great. You can monitor your own credit. It's convenient to have a credit monitor. So, those are one of those things like, do I want to pay for it? Do I want to do it by myself? Can I get it for free? Questions? Yes.
So is it smart to have your credit statement sent to you on paper? Or is it better to not do that and just try and check it on the computer?
It's been a little bit since I ran a report. So I don't know if they send it to you in the mail, if they redact certain pieces of information. I mean, I think there's risk in both, obviously. If you're having it sent to you in the mail, there is a chance that somebody's going to steal it out of the mail. If you're running it on a computer, you're downloading it as a PDF file and you're saving it somewhere. So in certain cases that could be accessible to someone. I think it's just preference. I don't know, like I said, I'm fairly confident that the only piece of like truly sensitive information would be your social security number. And I believe when you run the report, they only put the last 4 on there. So your risk is minimized in that sense. I would say it's not that risky to do it either way. Because the information that's on there is going to list it's going to say the creditor name. So if you have a Capital One card, it's going to say Capital One. It might put the last 4 of the card number. It might not even have a card number on there. It puts the, how much credit limit you have, how much is used. And then it typically will tell you the last time you paid, information like that. So the information that's on there isn't inherently sensitive. It's just more, data about you that's important that you want to make sure is accurate, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Let me make sure I talked about everything I wanted to before I open it up. I think so. See, I know we're gonna skip this and it's gonna be a pain in the butt and not let me skip it. There we go. Questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
On each credit report, why is a FICO score different?
Because each credit reporting agency has a algorithm that they use to determine that score, and they're all different.
But doesn't the protection, don't you, the government?
There's no entity that regulates that.
One's up, one's down, one's here. I mean, it drives me crazy.
You go in a deep dark hole and say that it's a conspiracy theory and that credit reporting agencies are, bad or
you
the
go from
government
one
wants
month to
them,
the
they're all
other, it
bad.
drops 10 points and I didn't do anything.
The honest truth is,
I mean, it's just nuts.
They all use a different algorithm, and you don't know what that algorithm is. In general speaking, they look at, have you had a credit history? What's your debt to income ratio? Do you pay your bills on time? All of that. So you'll see, me as an 18-year-old, I couldn't get a credit card for a while because I didn't have any credit. For your sons and daughters out there, you could actually apply or put, I could put my son on a credit card, not get him one, but have him on my credit card so that he can, develop credit. Obviously you don't want to do that if you have bad credit, but you can put a minor on a card so that they can start developing credit. That's another thing, you want your younger people to check their credit too, even though they might not think because there are people out there that target younger because they know they're not looking at it, but that's getting off on a tangent. But, when I was, in college, I had a $500 credit card because I couldn't get credit, but I wanted to, have credit and whatnot. So it is very not explained. It's hard to explain how they determine it. And it just, it stinks that it's out there that way, but I wish I had those answers.
It drives me nuts because I haven't done anything.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
A question on the skimming devices.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the cards now have the ability to tap the card instead of sliding it into the
Great
slot.
question. Yeah.
Is that less likely to be skimmed?
So I'm going to tell you the hierarchy. So, and it's actually, which I didn't know until recently, the way that you pay affects the amount of money that the store is paying, which obviously sometimes you don't care about most of the time unless it's a family friend or somebody. But the way it works as far as security when it comes to paying with a credit card, tapping is going to be the most secure. And I put an asterisk on that because as of right now, scammers aren't using that technology or don't know how to use that technology and break into it. So your tapping is going to be your most secure. Your chip is going to be second. Swiping is going to be third, and then obviously manually entering it is going to be the last from a security standpoint. So use the tap as much as you can, because as of right now, it is the most secure way to do it. Now, do I think that scammers will catch up with the technology? Yes.
Until AI gets a hold of it.
Right. But from that perspective, and honestly, it makes sense when I heard about the fee schedules and how the fees change with the way that you pay, because the more secure something is, the less it costs, because there's less risk and less loss. So that'll tell you something, right? Any other questions?
Do you have, I mean, and maybe this is a separate seminar, any suggestions on where we should keep our passwords, how we should do that? Because that's the problem is, I'm sure we can all, have it be one time and then you have to change them, you can't remember. And
We'll talk a little bit about, I could talk a little bit about passwords. I will put a legal disclaimer on this that, I have to tell you, I can't give you legal advice or advice, I can tell you my experience and whatnot. When it comes to passwords, it is that risk factor. So there are password managers out there. There are free password managers like the one through Google, or there are paid password managers that secure your passwords and save them for you, or keep them. They are secure, but that comes at a risk. They could be hacked. Microsoft, Google is a huge company that invests a lot of money into security, because if they don't, their stuff is going to get hacked and people aren't going to purchase their products. So, do I use Google Password Manager? Yes. Because I don't want to pay for one. Do I think that the companies that are paid password managers may have different features and offer different security levels? Yes. You have to decide if that's worth it for you to pay for. When it comes to password managers and having stuff out in the cloud and being saved, that puts you at risk more than not using it, obviously. So you have to make that choice. Do I think that they're secure? Yes. Do I think that they won't ever get hacked? No. If you're writing your passwords down on a piece of paper, that's secure in a way. Nobody's gonna get it unless they actually physically walk into your house and steal your piece of paper with your passwords on it. But are you gonna take that with you when you travel? Are you gonna lose it? When you have it, is it secured in a safe, or is it just laying around your house? So when it comes to passwords, there are choices, is what I wanted to say. What I was thinking of is the benefit to a password manager is that it allows you to probably create more complex passwords than you would if you're typing them in by yourself. Because now you can come up with a 30-digit numerical, symbols and all of that you're never probably going to remember, but that password manager is going to remember for you, which is less likely to be compromised. There's, even though scammers use technology to crack passwords, something like that is going to be way more secure than your dog's name 123 with an exclamation point. So,
have you been in my house?
No, but there are trends, and that's so. There are benefits to password managers. There's risks. There's benefits to writing it down and securing it in a secure location. There's risks. I can tell you all day long, don't ever store your passwords, but I store my passwords, but I also have my phone locked. I have multi-factor authentication on my account. So, there are ways to make those types of things more secure, if that helps you and answers your question. I had a thought while I was thinking that, but now I've lost it. So I do want to say I will take more questions. I want to leave my information up on here because I know it's 2:30 and I don't want you to have to stay if you don't want to. If you don't feel comfortable asking a question in front of the crowd, you can feel free to stop by as I'm packing up and I will stay and answer questions. So thank you for having me. Thank you for being a great audience. I appreciate coming here and hopefully I'll see you at another class. So check out the fall semester. I'm going to be teaching again. So yes, your question.
This question is off the credit card.
Yeah.
But a lot of the fraud occurs with phone calls.
A lot of fraud occurs with phone calls.
The phone can identify the call as a spoof call.
Yeah.
So they tell you it's a spam call. Why can't they just not let the phone call go through?
Okay, well, there's a difference between spoofing and spamming, right? And I got into a discussion at a presentation about spam versus scam. So we'll talk about that. And you should come to my scam class the next time I have it because I talk about all of that. But the skinny on it is spoofing is a technology that allows someone to display a different caller ID, right? So that's separate. And spoofing happens and whether or not a telephone provider can detect that, I don't know. But that's spoofing. Now, spam calls. And your phone can detect whether or not they think it's a spam call. Now, there's a lot of information behind phone calls. You know, your telecom provider tracks a lot of data and the people that are making phone calls, that data. So, you know, how many calls did a business launch? Who are they calling? Are they registered? What are they doing from a business standpoint? So when a business is a bad business or a bad actor and they're making, you know, thousands and thousands of robocalls to everybody across anywhere, they may be flagged as a bad actor. And that's why your phone knows that it's a potential spam. Now, it doesn't say scam call because they can't 100% tell you that it's a scam. That's why when a doctor's office calls and they're leaving you a message as an appointment reminder, a lot of times they come up as potential spam. And most of the time, the reason is because somebody way up high or probably down low hasn't called the telecom provider and told them that they're using that phone number to send reminder messages out. So now the telecom provider thinks that they're doing bad things. So that's why your phone knows that it's a spam. Why they can't stop them is because people aren't reporting scam phone calls, because people aren't reporting them as scam.
Well, if they did stop them, then they would, so the problem is eliminated.
That's my spoofing, spamming, and scam. And it looks like they're using this room probably for Zumba, so I'm sorry. I will be cleaning up